Hey guys, so the Chapter 8 test is going to be pretty much exactly a combination of the quiz that you just got back, and hopefully right now, and including these word problems. Okay, so these word problems have to do with trig. Alright, so as long as you can handle these, and you go through your quiz, and you understand that, and do the practice test, and do all your IXL, and study a little bit, I think you'll be in really good shape, and obviously knowing how to use a calculator as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a quick video. We're just going to run through these problems real quick. So you can see it's the same stuff that we did in section 4, but now like with words involved instead of me just giving you the equation. Okay, so the terms that you need to know for this are angle of elevation and angle of depression. Okay, so those are going to appear in almost every one of these problems. And the key here is that those two angles, angle of elevation and angle of depression, are actually the same angle. Okay, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so if you see angle of elevation, it's talking about this angle right here. Okay, so you see it's that little angle from like a line of sight or, you know, from the ground up or whatever. All right, it's going to be that little angle. All right, now angle of depression, the most common mistake that I see, and I think I will see, is in a right triangle like this, right? When I say angle of depression, people are going to think it's this angle, but it's not that angle. Okay, so let me show you how it ends up being the same as the green angle. All right, we have this horizontal line and obviously the ground. Those are obviously parallel to each other. So since angle of depression is this top angle, which is on the outside of our right triangle, right, from what we learned back in like chapter 4 or 3, whatever it was, we talked about alternate interior angles, right? This is just a transversal, and alternate interior angles are congruent. So an angle of depression is actually this angle again. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you see angle of elevation or angle of depression, you're always going to be using that bottom left angle. Okay, so I'll show you how this works out in 4 problems. Obviously, check out that example, right? It's very similar to what I'm about to do. Now, the difference between these 4 problems and what you're going to see on your test and what you see in the practice problems that I assigned to you as optional extra practice for these to get ready for the test is they have beautiful little diagrams drawn for you. On the test, you're going to have 5 of these problems on the back page, and I don't give you the drawings. Okay, so it's going to have all these words, but you're not going to have the drawings. You got to draw your own. So I'll show you how to draw these on your own. They're obviously going to look very similar to those, but just so we get the idea of it. So when I do problems like this, I know we've got right triangles. Okay, so let me just draw all the right triangles right now. And it doesn't really matter how you draw these. Okay, they don't have to look exactly like this, but just something that looks like a right triangle so you can fill in what we need to fill in. Okay, so if you look at this first problem, it asks for, or it tells the angle of elevation from point A to the top of the hill is 49 degrees. So I'm going to fill that in. That's 49 degrees. Nice drawing by me. All right, point A is 400 feet from the base of the hill. Okay, so this horizontal distance is 400? Yeah, 400 feet. How high is the hill? So that's where my x is going to go. So if we jump into the trig part of this just looks like something we solved in section 4, and it looks very similar to the nice little beautiful drawing that they have for us. So I'm going to use the tangent because I have opposite and adjacent. So tangent of 49 degrees equals x over 400. To solve for x, I need to multiply that 400 over. So I'm going to type in the calculator as x equals 400 times the tangent of 49. And I get x equals 460.1 feet. Remember, on word problems like this, you need to have the correct units. So since they use feet, I'm going to use feet as well. Number 2. All right, in this one, we got to find the angle of elevation. So I'm going to put my x here at the angle of elevation. We've got a 12.5 meter tall telephone pole casts an 18 meter shadow. Remember, shadows obviously are on the ground, so that's where that's going to be. Once again, we're going to use the tangent function with our opposite and adjacent. So tangent of x equals 12.5 over 18. Now, here we've got the angle is my variable, so I need to pick up that tangent, move it to the other side. In order to do that, we have that fancy button in the calculator, the inverse tangent function. So I'm going to type in the calculator, second tangent of 12.5 over 18. And I get the angle equals 34.8 degrees. Beautiful. Now the skiing one, number 3. For this one, we have ski run is 1,000 yards long, right? You ski down a hill, so it's going to be there. Vertical drop is 208. We're going to try to find the angle of depression. Now, angle of depression and angle of elevation are the exact same thing, so my x is there again. I'm going to use a different trig function because I've got opposite and hypotenuse for my angle of elevation or angle of depression. So I'm going to use the sine. Sine of x equals 208, opposite, over 1,000 hypotenuse. Second sine, 208 divided by 1,000. And I get x equals 12.0 degrees. All right, I did 0.0 there. You don't necessarily need it. You're just rounding the nearest tenth correctly is all you need to do. Last one, number 4. So we've got the top of a 120-foot high tower. That's how tall it is. Air traffic controller observes the airplane in the runway angle of depression of 19 degrees. Don't get confused by that. It's the same as the angle of elevation. How far from the base of the tower is the airplane? From the base, right? The base is obviously at the bottom, so that's where my x is going to be. I'm going to use tangent again, so tangent of 19 degrees equals 120 over x. Remember, in order to solve these, basically I'm going to pick up, well, this isn't real math, but the way I visually think of it is I pick up that 120 and throw it on top of the tangent 19. Or you could, what's actually happening mathematically is you're multiplying the x over and then dividing the tangent 19 back over. So what I'm going to type in the calculator is 120 divided by the tangent of 19 degrees. Hit enter, and you should get 348.5 feet. So on this second page, all right, this is going to be the bonus question on your test. I'll just tell you right now, it's going to look like this. This is a hard problem. They have this fully worked out example right here. I'm going to do number 2, and then number 1 is very similar to it that you guys can do if you'd like. All right, so if you want to check out on this, that's okay. The calculation is definitely difficult, but I'll show you kind of how it works. All right, so we've got this angle of depression. All right, you can look at this big diagram and see, you guys can figure out how to translate this into this. I'm going to pick up from the diagram. Okay, so in this one we've got 2 variables. We're trying to figure out is what is x, but then we're also going to take into account that this person is 6 feet high, so we'll do that at the end. What you're going to need here is you've got 2 triangles. We're going to have to look at this triangle right here. Right, and the equation we can come up with that triangle using our trig functions with the x and the y is tangent of 36 degrees equals x over y. Okay, and then we're also going to look at this big triangle. The equation for that one is going to be tangent of 25 degrees equals x over, not 10, but y plus 10. Okay, because it's that whole bottom distance right there, which is 10 plus y. Okay, so this is just a system of equations that we need to solve. Right? With a system like this, you have to use substitution. You're not going to be able to use elimination. So what I suggest we do here is we get the x's by himself and then set them equal to each other. Okay, so with this red equation, just multiply the y over. We get x equals y times the tangent of 36. For the blue one, we're going to multiply that y plus 10 over. Remember, when we do that, we're going to have to distribute the tangent of 25 to both of those. So I'm going to get x equals y tangent of 25 plus 10 tangent of 25. The way I did that is I distributed the tangent of 25 to both. Remember that the tangent of 25 is just a number. It's just a long decimal. Okay? So now because they both are equal to x, I can set these 2 things equal to each other. Okay, so that creates a new equation for me. This equation is going to be y tangent of 36 equals y tangent of 25 plus 10 tangent of 25. Now I know that looks more complicated, but at least I only have one variable now. So I don't have an x and a y, I have just y's. So I'm going to get all the y's by themselves. So I'm going to subtract that y tangent of 25 over. So y tangent of 36 minus y tangent of 25 equals 10 tangent of 25. Okay, now I want to take these 2 y's that are over here, and I want to combine them to be 1 y. And the way I'm going to do that is from the first rule of factoring. So if you remember from factoring, the first thing you can do, which you always look for, is pulling out the greatest common factor. So I'm going to take a y out of this. I'm going to take a y out. I'm left with tangent of 36 minus tangent of 25. Now the last step in getting y by itself is just divide that whole thing over. So divide this whole thing, leave the y by itself. We're divided both sides, so I'm going to basically what I'm going to type in the calculator is 10 tangent of 25 over tangent of 36 minus tangent of 25. And that ends up being the calculation for all of these. That's a degrees, not a 250. All right, now this is what's tough to type in the calculator, so you need some practice with it. Ooh, bell rang. Okay, so I'm going to type it in the calculator real quick. And when you type that in the calculator, you need to make sure you have parentheses everywhere, so you have to remember to close parentheses here, put parentheses around this whole thing, and then close the parentheses around these as well. If you don't get my answer, then that's probably mistakes that you made, so make sure you have those parentheses. But it should come out to about 17.92. Okay? So that's helpful. This is 17.92, but it's not what I want. Remember, I want to find x and then add 6 to it. So I need to go back to this red equation. Now I know that this number right here, that y, is 17.92, so it gives me a simpler equation to work with. So I just have tangent of 36 equals x over 17.92. Multiply the 17.92 over, and I'm going to get x equals 13.0. Okay? So since x equals 13.0, let's go back up to this diagram. Ooh, it's all over the place. So x is 13, right, feet. Right? But I want to know how far off the ground it is. Now remember that this person is 6 feet tall, so I need to add a 6 to that, and I get the whole answer is 19 feet. Like I said, tough problem. It's going to be the bonus. You guys can definitely practice here with number 1, and there's also practice in the textbook. So get ready for the test.